From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, the loss of an absolute icon, an incredible man, Mike Martin Sr., 79 years old, passes away. Our thoughts on just how incredible of an impact he made on this program and this entire university. The Renegade Express mailbag. We're talking culture. We're talking offensive line development. And will there be an exodus of college coaches to the NFL? Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com, the website. Lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. And on Fridays, you get a chicken strip basket, everybody. Hand-breaded, served with a dipping sauce. Or they'll toss it in the sauce. Comes right on the plate, in the basket. Delicious. Can't go wrong. Comes with a side dish as well. Straight fries, curly fries, onion rings, potato salad, coleslaw, broccoli side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. Check it out. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, everybody. Live music this weekend, too, I would assume. Right, Corey?
Probably. I know they have live music. Tom and the Cats are playing, I think, the Saturday night before the Super Bowl.
Okay. Mark it down, everybody.
Yep. So get there for that. A lot of cover songs, good songs, a lot of rock music, good stuff.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Why don't you hit the thumbs up if you're listening to YouTube? Leave a 5-star rating and review on the Apple side of things. I need to pull up our ratings and see if anyone's left a review lately. Remember we used to read those like every now and then?
Yeah.
But
then they became so fast and furious we couldn't keep up with all the 5-star ratings and reviews.
That's one way to frame it. I like it. Lots going on over at warchant.com. We spoke to newcomers. We got a mailbag for you. We'll try to get through some of that. But first, just to obviously touch on the passing of Mike Martin Sr., a.k.a. 11, head baseball coach at Florida State for so many years, so many wins. Really go check out Corey's column. I know he's here in front of me, kind of, but not really. Corey, that's probably my favorite column you've ever wrote. It was
thanks,
incredible,
buddy.
man.
Thank you.
It was just really distilled everything down, just what made him a great dude. And then obviously just a iconic baseball coach. I mean, the crazy thing to me is just like how long he was married to Carol. Like you see all these huge numbers next to what he's accomplished. And you're like, man, he also was married for, 58 years?
58 years. Isn't that crazy?
Good grief. Amazing. Incredible.
Especially me talking about it from the perspective of, I made it. I think I made it 10 with Shanna. And that was a good run, and a lot of people can relate to that. And I'm about to get married again. Probably not a good chance that we make it 58, just because of our age, not because of my age, I should say. We probably won't. I won't make it into the hundreds. But yeah, man. I mean, you think about being married to, and like real, like I don't. It's hard to explain, but when you saw them together, it was still like affectionate. Like it was just. It was something to see those two together, and obviously you guys can read my column. Jeff, Ira and I, don't know, however you're supposed to grammatically say that, did a live reaction video that's on our YouTube channel that was about 35 minutes long, where we touched on a lot of our feelings and stories on 11. But just know I think that I mentioned this on that live show. I wrote the column on Bowden too, the passing away of Bowden, and that was a hard one to write too, but that one was a hard one to write because it made me think of my dad. And my dad's been passed away now for coming up on, 13 years. But all of our best memories of my childhood are Florida State football, and Bobby Bowden created that for us, gave us that. And so I kind of wrote it through the lens of what Bobby Bowden meant to me and my dad. But I didn't really know Bobby Bowden. I only covered him for 2 years. Have him on my cell phone. I think I had one-on-one conversation with him, and it was for about 10 minutes before his last game against West Virginia and Jacksonville. That was it. But Mike Martin, I wrote that from the perspective of that dude was my friend.
Yeah.
Like, I got to know him, and I write in the column that, like, when he called me his friend, I came up to a table where he was at a local restaurant just to say hello, and he introduced all of the people at the table. He didn't say, "Hey, this is Corey from Warchant." He said, "Hey, this is Corey, my friend Corey." And I'm like, wow, like, I don't know why it touched me like that, but it did, because he didn't have to do that. But we were friends. We're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be objective journalists. Blah 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 blah. No, he was my friend, and he was such a lovely person. He was just a gentleman. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, I get it, man. Florida has a guy that's won a national championship, or two. I don't know how many O'Sullivans won at Florida. Give me Mike Martin every day of the week, man. He is somebody. Mike Martin won two, and he was a few plays here and there from having 4 or 5 championships. And it's not like he was, some marshmallow that got beat every year. He was a very, very good baseball coach, but he did it as a gentleman and with class, and he was somebody you could be proud of. And I don't know, that always stood out to me. Same with Bowden, really. Yeah. And how lucky Florida State fans were, man, are. That 2 of the giants in the history of these respective sports were not only all-time winning coaches, like great on the field, but just good people off the field. That means a lot, man. That should mean more than anything. I know it doesn't, and I know I'm in a field of sports where wins are supposed to be all that matters. But that's such a great legacy to have for both of those guys, is that when people talk about them, yes, they mention the wins and the records and the championships and all that, but, man, do they always come back to just what kind of people they were. And Mike Martin Sr. was just one of the best people I've ever met. Just a great person.
Yeah, just an incredible sort of class and dignity in which they carried themselves in these programs. And, throw Leonard Hamilton in there, too. I mean, those are huge shoes to fill and compare up to. But, Leonard's not too far behind, and he's done a remarkable job of guiding this program and never do anything to embarrass it, never to put a bad light or – bring upon, people that are going to not represent the university the best they possibly can. So, it's incredible, man. And I really like the way that Corey's, his wit comes through in this column. It's just crazy when you mention the fact that he won 1,000 games twice. When you frame it like that, like, just imagine winning 1,000 games and then maybe like taking a year off and then coming back
doing it again. Yeah,
incredible. It's
like Tara Vandiver. I know baseball teams play more games, but like Tara Vandiver, I think the Stanford head coach just broke Krzyzewski's all-time wins record.
Correct.
For college basketball. And I don't know what the number is. It's like 1,200 or something, 1,240. Imagine her having to go win another 800. It's just crazy. It's crazy to win 1,000 games twice. Like, talk about records that'll never be touched. That's up there. That's locked and loaded forever. Look, I know he didn't get a national championship. I know that's a hole in an otherwise sterling, unbelievable, all-time great resume. But I do love that he will probably forever and always be the all-time winningest coach in college athletics. That's what a great person to be at the top of that list.
And thanks to the portal and NIL, LSU was able to put away the Gators this past year in Omaha. So they only have one. They only got that one.
Right. There
Kevin
we go.
O'Sullivan.
Good.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it. But, yeah, if you got the time, go check out the replay of Ira, Corey, and Jeff. And that's what Warchant is. It's 3 guys that have incredible credentials and have been covering this program, all of it, football, basketball, baseball, for decades. Putting it all together.
Jeff, I think he was saying the first time he taught to 11 was like 1996, 97 maybe. No, it's 99. It's later than that. But he was going to games as a student in the early 90s. Ira was covering games in the early 90s, and then my life was Florida State sports for my whole life. So yeah, we kind of have a unique perspective. And I would also encourage people. You can go read my column. That's fine. I would encourage you to. I want you to. I wrote it for you folks. Don't make me waste my time, guys. Read it. But also, just the beauty of Warchant and the message boards is everybody underneath can share their own stories of 11 in their own interactions with him, or just say good story or RIP 11. You can. It's almost like its own. It's like signing a guest book. Like you get to pay tribute in your own way, in the 2024 way. You get to pay tribute to somebody that meant so much to the university, and it's a good place to do it is the message boards right underneath the column like that, because everybody's out commenting on it.
All right, then. We were busy on Thursday. We're also over on campus, our own Irish Hotel. I guess there was a Board of Trustees meeting, huh? So I guess nothing too crazy happened because I didn't see anything breaking on our website. So we're still in the ACC fortunately/unfortunately. But we did get to speak to 4 newcomers, including Jalen Brown from LSU, Grady Kelly, who came in from Colorado State, BJ Gibson from Wilcox County in Georgia, dual sport athlete, and then Tomiwa Durojaiye from West Virginia via Pittsburgh. So
Philadelphia.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's a big deal. Those are too far flung from one another. Let's start the last guy first. So we spoke to Tomiwa the finale of Thursday. He's only 19, Corey.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize there was that much tread left on the tire, that much, clay to mold. He feels like that. I know Marvin Jones Jr. has the better pedigree, had the better rating coming out of high school. I mean, shoot, he might even be older than Tomiwa at this point. But the fact that he's a guy that's been, shown flashes of productivity in the way that he was used at West Virginia in a Power 5 conference, man, with the track record of the coaching staff in terms of the strength staff to get guys where they want to be. A 19-year-old kid, he's got a lot to grow into and become, and he seems to have a really good head on his shoulders and is saying all the right things and has a lot of confidence and big goals. Wants to be a first-round pick, so I'm not going to bet against him. He's only 19, Corey, only 19.
I don't recall leaving an interview or a press conference like that, and they're basically press conferences, I guess. There's like 8 of us in there asking questions. Aslan and I held it down, by the way,
Corey's
on Thursday
because
Ira wasn't there. He was at the board meeting, so somebody had to fill those shoes. It's not easy. Somebody's gonna have to fill Keon Coleman's shoes. It might take 2 guys, but they're going to have to put up those numbers.
I was going to say, that should be that's Ira's leverage if he ever needs a bargain for like a raise. It's just like, don't go into the press conferences and just look how we all fall apart without him not being there.
I thought we did all right.
You stepped up, though, Corey.
Yeah.
You did.
But what I was going to say is leaving that or just in the middle of it, I'm like, man, is this guy going to be the best player on the team? I don't, obviously it's just him talking. It's him standing there in front of me, and he's a huge dude. He's a huge human being. But the confidence that he talked about himself with and kind of the perspective he had on himself about, his time at Kentucky. And he said, he went in with some freshmen, and a couple of the freshmen on that team became, freshman All-Americans, and he started to wonder, am I really built for this? Can I do this? Like his confidence, he said, wavered a little bit. But then he went to West Virginia and started making plays. And then all of a sudden, I think that self-belief really ramped up. And now I love it. Now, look, there is a chance he might look like a fool 3 years from now with this first-round talk and getting to the NFL. He mentioned that JP had gotten Jermaine and Jared Verse to the NFL, and Odell's gotten a bunch of guys to the NFL, and he's going to be working with both probably. And he might look like a fool in 3 years that he came in speaking about being a first-round pick. But I love that stuff, man. I love kids that come in with that kind of confidence. I just do. Now, maybe he'll be put in his place and he won't ever be able to rise back up. But when you have that kind of confidence coming into your first spring at a place, some of those guys, they just don't take no for an answer. They don't take mediocre for an answer. They work through it. And they're like, no, I'm better than this. I'm more impactful than this. I'm going to become a star. By hook or crook, by hell or high water, by any other dumb phrase you want to use that don't even make sense, I'm going to become a star. And I just got that impression from that kid that he believes he's going to be a star. And he might end up being one. I'm certainly a believer right now. I'll tell you again in a weekend of spring practice. But, man, I was really impressed with his personality. He seems to be really driven. Self-motivated, clearly, and just seems like a guy that is going to really work hard to be a great football player. I could be 100% wrong. I have been before, but he was real. They all were. All 4 of those guys on Thursday were interesting dudes. But I was blown away by him. I came away thinking, okay, he might start for them this year and be an All-ACC player this year. He'll be 20, I think, when the season starts. That was the other thing, Aslan. You brought that up. I didn't realize he was 19. Man,
exactly, it's crazy.
Who knows what he's going to look like when he's 21 or 22? Who knows what kind of player he's going to be? He's 19 years old. He's already at his 3rd college, which speaks to the era we live in. But him being 19 and looking like that, and having that confidence, and having that clay to mold, as you phrased it, that got me really excited to see what his career ends up being.
Yeah, the three schools, I guess, makes a little bit of sense, obviously, because it's the day and age that we live in. But also, I mean, he admitted, which is really cool. I thought that he took accountability when he said he went to Kentucky, wasn't able to get on the field. Guys in his class were able to get on the field, and that was sort of tough to have to stomach. So then he tries to go for greener pastures, goes to West Virginia, has a good year, but hey, man, it's West Virginia. Florida State's on the rise. Why not see what you can do out there? And he mentioned it was totally different the second time in the portal when you actually had film making plays in games.
Yeah, he said all of a sudden everybody was calling him.
Yeah,
like
so
the phone blew up because they saw what he looked like. And I think it came down to Florida State and Auburn, right, is what he said?
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to play big-time college football and be a first-round pick, not that you can't do it in Huntington, that's where Marshall's
Morgantown.
at. Morgantown,
yeah.
Tallahassee and Auburn, maybe a little bit more friendly to those goals, so definitely kind of makes sense and adds up. And to your point about him saying the right things, just like he knows what he's signing up for, and this staff, again, man, like you want to talk about being wrong, man, I probably would need to do 10 shows about how wrong I was about Mike Norvell, but man, when he mentioned the fact that, Mike Norvell asked him, what does he want to be? And he said, I want to be one of the best defensive linemen in all of college football. Norvell makes note, all right, you're locked into that then. I'm going to do everything I can to get you to that level. And we've been in all these...
I'm going to hold you to that. Yeah, he said, I'm going to hold you to that standard. I'm going to hold you to that, yeah.
Yeah, we've been in all these practices. We see how hard he coaches guys. So when you know there's a coach that's willing to do that for you, and you're willing to sign up for it, and we know that Norvell's not going to back off on it, it's hard to imagine it's not going to work out. It's incredible, man.
I do wonder. I think he's listed at like 280.
Yeah.
And he's coming in as a defensive end. I'd like him a little lighter. And he did talk about Storms that they want to get him a little lighter. He said that. He wants to be a little more athletic. He wants to lose a little weight, make it leaner, leaner and lighter. So, yeah, I was wondering because if you're hovering around 280 as a 19-year-old, well, you keep hovering around 280 for another year, they might put 25 pounds on you and say you're moving inside, big guy.
Right.
So this is kind of a do or die, not a do or die. I mean, I think he's going to be able to play at either position, but he wants to be a defensive end. That's more of a glory position. He believes that he can do it, but I like the fact that he admitted, like, some of these guys will be like, yeah, I'm right where I can be. I'm fat. He's like, no, I want to get a little more athletic. So he's probably going to try to lose, I would guess, 10 or 15 pounds and get more in that 260-ish range. As opposed to 280, because that's pretty darn big for a defensive end.
Yeah. And the other thing I liked from Tomiwa was, he kind of, he did a really good job of complimenting Neil Brown at West Virginia.
I love that part. Love that part. Tell him about it, Aslan. Go.
And with Mark Stoops, I mean, he mentioned just about they were both great coaches, and he appreciated their time and giving him the opportunity. But I really liked when he talked about the fact that with Mike Norvell, and he was like, it's not a knock to those coaches. I love playing for those guys. But he just mentioned how consistent Mike is. And like, it really, what he is at practice and what we see and what we hope to convey to you folks, man, is what he is to those players every single day. And I think you kind of maybe got a little bit of a glimpse into how it works, maybe when he had to go in the portal the first time around and he's being recruited and told these certain things. And listen, there's a honeymoon phase in any sort of thing, whether it's taking a new job, having a new partner, or a new coach, a new leader. But I don't think that Norvell and this staff put on this sort of show or talk in a certain tone or hold themselves in a certain way. And then when you show up to camps, it's totally different. I can see that happening at other schools. I've seen it happen in other schools.
Right.
And that's not happening here. So I really... It just, again, makes you appreciate what this coaching staff is, and then that's why they're going to be so successful is because, man, that's really a key thing, right, Corey? Like, I know what's going to happen when I show up and do a show with you pretty much every single time. I'm going to ask you a question, then you're going to rip off some really good information on it, and I can move us on to the next question.
Right.
I mean, he knows that he's got that sort of consistency, and that's it's an incredible asset that doesn't sound sexy, but is a really crucial thing when it comes to winning over players and having them play hard.
So you're saying I'm like the Mike Norvell of podcasting.
I mean, the consistency is unbelievable.
And it is sexy, though. You said that I wasn't. You said it's not sexy, but you wouldn't say that I'm not sexy.
Well, man, I got two working eyes, even though I got glasses on them.
Right. But no, what I was going to say about you went a different direction than I was going to go. I've been doing this for so long. He was asked why he chose Florida State or what stood out about Norvell, and he's like, he talked about how he's the same guy whether he's coaching you or recruiting you or seeing you in the hallway. And then he realized what he said, I just think this speaks to who he is as a person, and maybe I'm looking way too deep into it. He immediately went back to Stoops and Neil Brown and said, not that those guys weren't. I like those guys too. They were very consistent as well. I don't want to put it that they aren't.
Yeah.
And I just thought usually when these guys leave a program or leave two programs in his case, they don't take the time to worry about the program that they left's feelings or coach's feelings. And I just thought that was a really I don't know. I just I noticed it. It was a very noticeable thing that he made sure to point out. No, I like those guys a lot too. They were good for me too. He didn't just throw it off. Some of these guys will be like, the last school I was at, they did this, or this is. He just, he made a point of appreciating those guys. I just thought that maybe spoke a little bit about him, because you always wonder when you get a kid that's on his third school in 3 years and he's 19. Like, what kind of person really is he? Is he a kid that always has to be happy or is never going to be happy? And maybe I don't know. We spoke to him for 15 minutes, and I'm making all these assumptions about who he is as a person. But I just thought that was really neat, and it was uncommon. That's not something we've seen a lot since this portal became a thing.
Shout out to Grady Kelly, part of the Wedding Gang 2024, Corey.
That's right. May and Boulder. He's going to be May and I almost got into that. I could have asked them, hey, we're going to be, we're both grooms. What's it like for you, man? How's she doing? But I didn't do that. I figured we'd move on.
Kelly, a native of Navarre, played at Colorado State the last few seasons. Another guy that, is embracing the expectations here at Florida State. And, it was another thing I kind of, observed, I thought, Corey, that, the great thing about, or the thing that made Alabama great, I think, was the fact that they were able to avoid complacency year after year, and Saban was able to really push them. And that's something that Jimbo never was able to kind of figure out at Florida State. It does feel like there was a sense of entitlement with a lot of players. And there was a certain point where it's Florida State had reached a certain level. We're just going to kind of show up and roll the ball out there, and we're going to win. The spear on the helmet does all the work. I'm just glad to be able to wear it. But these guys all have like a certain mindset and mentality that they're not expecting anything to be handed to them. They're coming in with the right mindset to want to work and earn their jobs and earn positions. And Kelly just kind of seemed to have that same, spirit to him that Durojaiye had. And I know Jalen Brown might have been a little bit of a different kind of a tone in conversation, but that's what I got away from Kelly. And for Brown, I thought it was kind of interesting that, he seemed to not obviously be that stoked about not getting a lot of playing time at LSU, but it was kind of like, well, hey man, like there was a lot of good guys in front of you there. But he didn't have anything bad to say about his time, explicitly, but it did seem to me that he probably thought that he could be better utilized here. And I'm excited to see that with how far DJ can throw the ball and apparently how fast he feels he can run. Anything that stand out to you with Jalen Brown and Grady Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kelly is going to play. He is mature. That's clear. He played 3 years of college football. The last 2 years he played a lot at Colorado State. Kind of liked his makeup. Just everything about him, really. He talked about coming in and working. And then Jalen Brown, I wrote a story on him right afterwards. Like, he, again, just like Malik Benson, he talked about being one of those guys that can take the top off of defense. He's very fast. He even said, it's like, you guys know I'm pretty fast, and most people know. It's just an element. We're going to be talking a lot about it the next 8 months, so get ready for it. Next 7 months anyway. They've added a lot of speed out wide. They might not be, probably won't be as good as what they had overall, because Keon and Johnny are very good football players, but they have added some serious speed to this wide receiver core that they didn't have last year, and with a guy that can throw it a long, great distances. So it's just going to be a different, unique offense, but I liked it. He seemed like a guy that also was ready to work. And he's a testament, Jalen Brown I'm talking about, the kid from LSU. This is why you don't burn bridges in recruiting. You just can't do it anymore. Like back in the day, if you told a coach, no, I'm going to Ohio State or I'm going to Florida State, they'll be like, good luck, loser. I hope you tear your ACL. Click. Like they just they weren't very generous. There was not a generosity of spirit when you said no to them. But now those guys could be in the portal again in 5 months or 9 months, and you should keep those relationships open. And when that kid goes in the portal, he was a top 100 player, I think a top 50 player coming out of high school, and one of the top 8 or 10 receivers in the country, considered by most. The fact that you had a good relationship already, he feels like he made a mistake. the first time with LSU, and he should have chosen Florida State. He probably felt that way in Orlando, and he got to go and take a mulligan. And now he's at Florida State. I feel like, don't you feel like he's going to be, again, it's hard to know anything from 9 minutes at a podium, but I feel like the way he handles himself and carries himself, he absolutely expects to be a starting wide receiver for Florida State.
Yeah, listen, he left LSU, man. He had a good thing there. I mean, I know they lost their quarterback, but all those great receivers that were on the field ahead of him, like, they're mostly all gone. So he probably would have stepped into a significant role with them. And, the Nussmeier kid's no slouch.
Right.
I know they lost their OC. I mean, Denbrock left, but they seem to have pieced it out and figured it out down in Baton Rouge. So to walk away from that to come here and, walk into a really crowd. I mean, is it 13, Corey? Is that what you said? 13 on scholarship wide receivers?
Something like that. You could add them up yourself. I can't do it that quickly. I'll try. Portier, Williamson, Ja'Kai. That's 3. The 4 incoming wide receivers, right? Or didn't they have freshmen?
Sure.
I think they have 4 freshmen.
All right.
And
That's
then Malik and Jalen Brown, that's 9. Ja'Kai's brother, the kid from Indiana, does he count?
Yeah.
Destin Hill, Vandravius Jacobs,
12.
Hakeem Williams.
13. Yeah.
So at least 13. We might be missing one. But yeah, it's a lot of and Deuce Spann, 14.
14. So yeah, to walk away from a great program to come here, Florida State, obviously also a great program, better than aforementioned program, having beaten them 2 years in a row. Yeah, you've got to have a level of confidence. You either have to have a level of just dissatisfaction for food in Baton Rouge, or maybe Brian Kelly's probably not for everybody. I totally get that, but I don't think Mike Norvell is either. So to walk away from that to come here, you need to have some gumption that you're going to be able to get on the field quickly. So looking forward to that one. I think that's even a question that we have in the mailbag about who we're looking forward to seeing these newcomers. But don't want to gloss over our guy BJ Gibson real quick from Wilcox County in Georgia. Dual sport athlete, but the dual sport part's going to be TBA or TBD, at least till 2025 it sounded like, right, Corey?
Yeah, it was odd. So he and I think Cam Davis are 2-sport dudes. BJ Gibson especially. Like, BJ Gibson was a legitimate high-level baseball prospect that committed to Tennessee. And if anybody's been following college baseball the last few years, that ain't no joke. Yeah. Like, they offered him a scholarship. He accepted a scholarship. He committed to them. So he's a big-time baseball prospect. And because he's an early enroll, he said that was the most difficult part of his decision. I didn't realize this either, that he didn't really make the decision until December is when he finally firmed up that he would be an early enrollee, which meant not only did he have to go through tour of duty, but that he missed his senior baseball season, which was a very hard decision for him to make. But yeah, so I think he said that he plans to be a baseball player, just not this year. He'll get some work in the cages and stuff. But I guess with an early enrollee, I don't know how those rules work, where you're technically still supposed to be a high school senior if you're allowed to compete that year of your high school senior year. I don't know how I don't know how those work, but he will definitely be eligible for football in the fall. But yeah, I don't know if he'll. But yes, I do think baseball is something that he would. He would definitely try to go for next year, and maybe gets him out of tour of duty. I know half the guys in the 90s that were on the baseball team did it so they didn't have to do mat drills. So maybe that'll be a escape from tour of duty, because his reaction to being asked about tour of duty was really funny. Yeah. Basically, like he was a shock to the system, is what he said.
It's not for the weak, I think is what Jalen Brown said too.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Let's dip our toe real quickly into the mailbag before we talk about our great friends over at Vitamin Energy. Tennis Sump says, wake up. Who among the portal guys are you most excited to watch in practice? Thanks as always. And the mood among Bama fans. Quite interesting here in Birmingham. They seem resigned to 3 or more losses.
Oh. Yeah, I hope it's 9 losses. I would say, honestly, that's hard. I don't know.
DJ, obviously.
All of them. Can I say that? Like, almost all of them. Because Malik Benson, Jalen Brown, I want to see what those guys look like. I want to see DJ, obviously. I want to see these defensive linemen, how they move. How Durojaiye. I want to see how he moves and how he looks. Literally, it's because it's not. These aren't absolute known commodities. So it'll be really interesting to see what these guys look like. But I guess if I had to pick one, Marvin Jones.
Bringing it back.
How about that?
Bringing it back.
Yep.
Yeah, it's probably recency bias. I mean, because I think I said on the other show, Malik Benson's probably the one guy in the portal that if he hits his ceiling of potential that you would kind of project him having based off him being the number one JUCO prospect and having Alabama come after him, like if he can live up to that sort of billing, probably gives you the biggest shot in the arm for success this coming season, other than your quarterback being great. Yeah. But I'm really interested to see how Jalen Brown's going to look because if he's chomping at the bit this much again on the field, and again, he walked away from a good situation at LSU, really curious to see just how smooth he comes in and out of his routes, just how fast he is, because that's also Benson's game too. And then Durojaiye to see how he can come off the edge, because he said a few times about wanting to be more athletic, wanting to be more twitchy, and that's where the money's at, right? If you want to be defensive end, it's being a speed guy coming off the edge. So really curious to see how he kind of comes out of spring ball. But yeah, probably all of them. Yeah, I mean, there's not one guy that I'm like, who cares? I mean, they're all going to have probably a pretty important role with this team because they're not going to go out for the portal for guys to sit and wait. So we'll see how it goes. And we know what the spring game is. What, April 20th?
April 20th. Yep.
So I don't know. Do
4/20.
He did say last time we spoke to Norvell, I don't remember, somebody was saying that they're probably going to start spring a little bit later this year, right? Because they ended up playing a bowl game they ended up playing a bowl game a little bit later into the. Actually, they played the Cheez-It Bowl on the 30th, so it was only one day later.
Yeah.
I take it back. Never mind. Let me start talking about Vitamin Energy. I probably should have taken the Vitamin Energy Focus Plus so I'd keep my dates in mind and know what I'm talking about. But I didn't take one, so that's my bad. You don't follow my lead, everybody. Take Vitamin Energy. Go to vitaminenergy.com. Use that promo code WarChampBOGO. Buy one, get one free. Vitamin Energy, led by Florida State alums, all ACC performers, hooking you up with that promo code. Again, buy one, get one free. World's first and only clinically proven, clinically tested energy shot. Shout out to our guy, I think Steven was his name, who placed finally a long-standing order. He had a shopping cart ready to go for a long time, Corey, and he finally went ahead and pulled the trigger. He got the capsules. He got the Focus Support Plus capsules, the Immune Support Plus capsules, and then he got, I think, 2 of the Ultimate Variety Pack shots.
Okay.
A retail value of $117.30, but only $59.90 because of that Warchant BOGO
That's
promo
right,
code.
man. That's right. Hey, Warchant BOGO for life, gang. For life. Warchant BOGO. Use it. Use it well.
That's right. Shaking to take it, vitaminenergy.com. All right, Corey, let's try to hustle through as much of this mailbag as we possibly can here. Quick story from our guy. Let's start with Dave since I'm in a good mood. Bourbon is your friend. Corey, could you tell us the story of your dad driving to a cheap motel in Macon or Valdosta because the Florida State game wasn't playing in Atlanta? The part I'm most interested in, and feel free to embellish for entertainment purposes, is who told your mom when he brought you back home? Whether it was you or your dad, I imagine she either blew up or just shook her head and muttered, only you would take our son to a cheap pay-by-the-hour motel to watch an FSU game on TV. Perhaps a dubious decision at the time, but the dedication to watching Florida State football has really paid off now. Kudos, John. Tommy, that's our guy, his son, and I are excited to watch the Seminoles take on Louisville here on Saturday. A year ago, we went to the game, tried to scalp tickets, but a very nice woman just gave us 2 mid-court, 15 rows up for free. Given Louisville season, we might actually get paid to take someone's tickets this year.
I was going to say, I wonder what the going rate to get to the Louisville-Florida State game and the Yum Center is. $9, $12. I mean, good grief. It's not. You're going to have your choice of very good seats, I think, Dave. But so real quick, I'll touch that real quick for the people that don't know. And again, if you're under the age of, my age, count yourself lucky that you grew up in the time you did, because back then Florida State was only on TV probably 3 times a year. This was 1982, and this was a regional game, meaning south of Macon, I think it was south of Macon, they showed the Florida State-Miami game. North of Macon, they showed like the whatever, Auburn, and my dad somehow knew that. So I just remember as a kid in elementary school, I guess I was 6, driving to Macon or somewhere south of Macon, maybe Tifton, and checking into a hotel and turning on ABC just to watch Florida State play and beat Miami. And then when the game was over, turning right around and driving back home. But my mom and dad were... No, it was 3:30.
Oh, all right.
It was 3:30. So we got back. We got back at probably 10 o'clock or so.
Yeah, games didn't take as long back then to.
That's true. Yeah, they didn't have every. They weren't 4-hour games. Greg Allen, I think, had a big game in that one. Aslan. But either way, 24-7, I think, was the final.
Correct.
But anywho, my mom was fine. She knew my dad was crazy and did stuff like that. Plus, they were divorced at the time, so that was his weekend. And if he gets the weekend, he gets to do. If he wants to drive his son to Tifton to watch a football game on TV for a whole day, that's what they're going to do. We went to a sports bar one time and listened to Florida State play Notre Dame on the radio. That's how we lived life in the prehistoric times, gang, when not every game was on TV. So good. The only time my mom really got mad at my dad for doing John Clark things that I remember, even I knew it at the time. I was like 13 or 14, and we hung out at a sports bar until 2 in the morning, and I was hustling people at the Papa Shot game. My mom was not happy because back then they didn't have cell phones. We went to the Hawks game. It was supposed to be over at 9:30. It was over at 9:30. We were supposed to be home by 10:15, and we got home at 2:30. And she had no way to get in contact with us because there were no cell phones. My dad just decided to go to the sports bar and hang out with his friends while his kids shot Papa Shot.
And that's the genesis story for Corey being an absolute virtuoso at Papa Shot.
It's unbelievable, folks.
All comers come get it.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it.
Do you know who the Miami quarterback was that year?
What it wasn't. So it was between. It wasn't Kosar yet, and it wasn't Jim Kelly. He had left. Was it Richt?
It was.
Oh, there you go. Nice. He
this
didn't play well, I don't think.
He was 18 of 37 with 4 picks.
Yikes! Get it together, Mark. And Bowden was on the other sideline, going like, "I bet that guy can coach." That kid that keeps throwing us the ball, I bet he can coach.
Greg Allen, 17 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Okay, all right. The memory's still there, gang. It's still working.
How come Kelly Lowry and this Williams guy split time at quarterback? What was going on that year?
Buddy, Bowden did that all the time back then. Like, it wasn't just Jimmy Jordan and Wally Woodham who famously did it during the undefeated season, and they had their own nickname. Like, he would do it. He was playing 4 or 5 quarterbacks a year routinely. It's crazy.
Against Miami, too. No
Yeah.
kidding. Bradley Moss, sorry for beating a dead horse here, but the MyBookie ad reads reminded me to ask this question. Do you guys think people will be more hesitant to place future bets going forward for college football teams to win the national championship? It's not like any other sport. If you win all your games, you're in the playoff. College football playoff teams' fates are in the hands of a committee. FSU got screwed out of the playoff, so everyone who bet on FSU got screwed as well. I placed a $200 bet for Florida State to win it all at plus 2,300.
Man, that really does suck.
And I definitely
That's
felt
awful.
like I got robbed.
Yeah, I would too, man.
Man, jeez.
Yeah, I don't think so anymore. It's a really good question in hindsight, but not in foresight because the 12-team playoff. So, if Florida State would have gotten in this year, it would have had a chance. So, no, I think people will still bet on it. Like I said, Georgia and Ohio State, I don't know what their numbers are right now, what they're getting to be national champions, but they are absolutely 2 teams that are guaranteed to be in the playoff. And so that's a good place to start. They're the only 2, I think, that are absolute locks to be in the playoff heading into next year.
Yeah. Speaking of that playoff nonsense, who was it here that wanted to still talk about that sort of stuff? Actually, no, I want to go to this other thing here. The past season changing our prism, our lens from which we watch the sport. Our guy Mark in Naples, wake up, Corey, love your rant about Clemson and their spineless approach to the ACC problem. That was radio gold. Which leads me to my question. What do you guys think about the Boston College coach, Jeff Hafley, leaving for a coordinator position in the NFL? To me, it just shows how much the ACC sucks and is on life support. We are a so-called Power 5 conference, and we have had head coaches leaving for lesser jobs. Next thing you know, Dabo will be leaving Clemson to be the water boy for the Carolina Panthers. And Corey, what's going to be your what's your pregame routine for the wedding day? Big meal at CP, no meal, just a shot of vitamin energy, a couple shots of tequila, vodka Mio. Big day coming up. Congrats to you and Stephanie. Go Noles, screw Clemson, and screw the ACC.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. I haven't really planned the meal yet. I guess it would be funny if I planned it like the last meal, like people on death row do, because it's another wedding, it's another marriage for me. I haven't planned that yet. I'm sure it'll be involve vodka and Mios and water though. And yeah, I think the thing with Boston College is that, like, I guess, like, I could see the Vanderbilt coach doing that, right?
Yeah.
And I could see the Indiana coach doing that, or the Northwestern coach doing that. I don't think it's specific to the ACC, although I get the point. The overarching sentiment, for sure, I understand, and I agree with. But in this instance, it's like, man, it's just like what, especially at a place like Boston College, where any good player that you have to try like hell to get him to stay on your team, even though you recruited him out of complete anonymity to become like your star linebacker, your star offensive guard, and now he wants to go play for Alabama or Georgia or Florida State. That would get really old really fast. So just for like a quality of life, I could understand leaving Boston College to be a coach in the NFL. I still don't see that trickling down to the big boys, or trickling up, I guess, to the big boys. I don't foresee like a Kirby Smart leaving to go be a defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, who have an opening now, or Mike Norvell leaving or something. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's for being the Florida State head coach comes with its own issues too. But Boston College, like Florida State gets to pick off Boston College players if they want them. Yeah. But Boston College, man, they just have to like you get a piece of gold and you just double over trying to protect it from these vulture programs that want your best players. That said, Castellanos, if you want to go play in the Big 12 or go back to UCF, have at it, man. Go back to UCF. You get to play Florida this year. You don't need to stay at Boston College. Your coach just left.
I know people are trying to say that Harbaugh is also evidence of this, which I don't believe. I mean, he's
a head coaching job, though, right?
Yeah.
I think the difference there is that it's. I mean, maybe it's easier. It's definitely easier to be a NFL head coach than a college coach. You don't have to re-recruit your roster every year. But college coaches have been leaving the NFL for forever, and he always felt like an NFL guy.
Yes.
You know,
and they were going to give him the world to stay, and he decided not to. So I don't know if that either helps or hurts. And then listen, Tommy Rees too, though, I mean, he was Alabama's offensive coordinator, and I think he's now the tight ends coach for the Browns. I mean, surely he could have probably found another OC job, maybe even a group of 5 head coaching job. I mean, shoot, Alabama interviewed him for their head coaching vacancy when Saban retired.
Yeah.
But even he, and he's a young guy, and this is a young man's sport, even he was kind of like, hey, you know what, I'm going to go to the NFL. But, I still there's never going to be this big moment where there's a huge flood of people giving up on college football because listen, I mean, Jeff Hafley also coached at the NFL level for several years. So he's proven himself there. I mean, there's, no one's just going to come taken away. No one's just going to start coming. Jerry Jones isn't going to start looking at the NCAA rankings and see who's got the best defense in college and trying to get them to, leave their program to come coach NFL. It's few and far between are going to have that opportunity. It just kind of made sense for Hafley. And like Corey was saying, like, Boston College is a really tough place to recruit, and then you have to hold on to these guys.
Yeah.
No thanks. I'll go.
Yeah, it is a quality of life situation for a lot of these guys, and like you can't really build from within anymore, or at least right now, because if you do find some diamonds in the rough, people are going to steal your diamonds.
Yeah.
It's just the way the world works right now, and you can't do anything to protect it because you're Boston College. So that can be really discouraging and disheartening. And you can go get paid similar amount of money to just coach the guys that are on your team and just think about football and not have to think about keeping this 19-year-old happy or he's going to bolt and go to Penn State.
Island Chief, wake up. Coming off the 2020 season in January of 21, I asked, who do you think would win a championship first, Jimbo or Mike Norvell? I guess that has not been answered yet.
Right.
Well, I mean, Mike did win an ACC
Mike won
championship.
An ACC. I'm counting that. I'm counting that.
Yeah. Then I asked about culture and how important that was compared to talent. Now I ask, has our talent level caught up with our culture? It's a good question. The culture's elite. I don't know if it's a really high bar of what they've said here culturally.
Yeah.
So I don't think the talent level is met there because you probably need to recruit like Kirby has for 3 or 4 years to build up that kind of pipeline of stuff. But again, they've got enough pieces to manage through the schedule and navigate through it to be on the other side and making it to the playoff. But when they can start holding on to the KJ Boldens of the world and then seeing them develop for 2 or 3 years, and then at that point you've merged it on to the level of your culture. But you're not too far behind it. Certainly not as bad as it was in January of 21.
Culture is so hard to quantify. I mean, you know it when you see it. You know a good culture. You know a bad culture when you see it. That stands
It's like obscenity.
out.
It's like obscenity, right? It's hard to define, but
pornography,
I know
pornography, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know when I see pornography, gang. Anyway, but when it comes to culture, though, it is so hard to quantify. But this will be another good test of that because. Last year they brought in some transfers, but they had so many high-profile guys still on the team. Like Keon Coleman couldn't come in and just take over a locker room. There's Johnny Wilson. There's Jordan Travis. There's Fabian Lovett, and there's Jared Verse. Like this isn't your locker room, man. You're joining something. I don't know if this year these transfers are joining a different program. And how much? And I think it comes from the top down. I think it's Norvell's program. It's Norvell's culture. But there is a player-driven aspect to it too. And I do wonder what it's going to be like when you have so many new faces. Like 35 right now, 13 transfers, 22 signees, something like that. So maybe by the time spring is over, it could be right around 40 new players on one team. So there's only 4. It's like half the team is new guys. So will that other half, the one that's been here, the one that went 13-0, the one that went through the Orange Bowl debacle and everything in between, will they be able to keep? Will that culture take to the new guys, or will they bring in? Because you never know. Transfers can be, it's a roll that it can be a roll of the dice. And what they've done so well in the first 4 years they've been here, and it's the truth, especially after the first year. When they've actually had they've had better choices, is better options, I guess I should say, is they brought in guys that really do fit. And they swear by these guys. Talking to the ones we've talked to, it sure sounds like they brought in guys that fit this culture. But until we see it in March and April and then August on, you don't know for sure. I guess I don't even know if any of that made sense.
No, I mean, let's be honest.
I think it's a good test for the culture to see how it affects these veteran guys that are looking to make their mark in college football.
And just also from the level of where they're currently at. I mean, Keon Coleman's more accomplished than anybody that
correct
entered. Braden Fisk was more productive and more accomplished than, Grady Kelly.
Right.
I think the ceiling for Jared Verse is probably a little bit higher than what Tomiwa currently has right now, but who knows after 2 years of being in there. But if they can buttress this with some, 5-star elite high school talent and then 2-3 years, then we're really cooking with grease and we've synced everything up. Let's keep it on the recruiting front here. FSU Robert and our guy Mucknell want to talk about offensive lineman development. Robert says, "Wake up, y'all are great. Thanks for the content." Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome, Robert.
Let's use our Mela S season early as a litmus test for offensive line development. What's a reasonable expectation for this cohort in 24? Of the 3, at least one needs to be truly competitive for a starting spot in 24, right? Or 2 of them by 25. If they go over in competitive substantial snaps this fall, would it be a red flag? O-liners take time. These guys are way too young to call them busts, but when do we start asking questions? With all the injuries, I was hoping one of them would contribute last year, but not even close. Mucknell says pretty much the same thing. I enjoy Alex Atkins's Monday press conference interviews. The same cannot be said for his seeming inability to develop virtually any of his 4 years of high school offensive linemen. As Corey said, I think Robert Scott's the only one of his high school recruits that's played anything other than garbage time. While many tout his ability to develop offensive linemen, where are all of his NFL guys? How many of his former charges from stops at Florida State, Charlotte, Tulane, and mighty Itawamba Community College have ever played it down in the NFL? It sounds a little unfair, but I get it. He also says it was nice meeting us in Charlotte at Resident Culture, which was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great time. That was a great time. That booster club knocked it out of the park. Charlotte Booster Club or North Carolina? I forget.
It was Charlotte.
Yeah, y'all knocked it out of the park. That was awesome.
Yeah, offensive line. Yeah, let's get one of those guys, right? But when you look at what they're bringing back, what they went into the portal, like I don't know if it's really an indictment that Jalen Early's not good if he doesn't get to play in front of Jeremiah Byers, Robert Scott, or Darius Washington. Like, I don't think it's an indictment that Bryson Estes is not good if he doesn't get to play in front of Keandre Jones and Terrence Ferguson. Early, I think the tackles, Armel and Early have their work cut out for them. It is kind of disappointing maybe that they've constantly gone and got more tackles, or more guards rather, out of the portal. They haven't really gone after any tackles in the portal, but they've
but it's like
certainly gone for guards.
And Darius Washington was very good this year. He was probably their best offensive lineman. He played all over the field. But, what if Robert Scott gets hurt again, or if Byers gets hurt? Or, look, let's not act like Jeremiah Byers was an All-American. Like, if Armella or Early, if they really like these guys, and I do think I think they like both of them, and I know they like Early. If they're what we think they're going to be, well, now aren't they about to go into year 3?
They are, yeah.
Yeah. That's the time to earn a starting spot. Like Jeremiah Byers is not. He is not Robert Scott or Maurice Smith. He has not been here long enough that it's just rightfully his. And good luck getting second string reps, man. This is my job. Like you can go beat him out. He wasn't. This isn't Walter Jones. And I love Jeremiah Byers, his personality, everything else. I think he's great for the team, but he's not a superstar right tackle. So are these? I look if neither one of those even get in the rotation this year, and it's still the same. It's Maurice Smith, Robert Scott, Darius Washington, Jeremiah Byers, and then 3 transfers? Harvard, Florida, and Alabama.
Yeah.
If that's literally nobody. The only person you've recruited since you've been here is Robert Scott, who was thrust into a role as a freshman that he clearly wasn't ready for, and it's turned into a pretty good offensive lineman. But I don't know. I don't know if it's an indictment because they keep winning. It's just an oddity. And it's something that you'd like to see them hit more, have a better hit rate on their high school guys. But clearly, they don't like what's going on at that position if they keep bringing in 3 or 4 transfers every year. That's what did they brought in the last? Was it Gibbons, Turnentine, Roddick, Byers?
They brought Caden Lyles.
Yeah. The 3 guys that's like 8 guys in 3 years, 8 or 9 guys in 3 years. So clearly they're not in love with how they're developing. But you'd like to see that. Maybe next year they'll see enough in practice because they're going to lose some of these guys. Like their eligibility's up. Crazily, Maurice Smith can't play college football for 12 years. He's going to have to leave at some point. We'll see what they look like next year in the portal. Because, again, if they have to go back in the portal and get 4 or 5 more guys again, 3 to 5, it's like, we just stop recruiting high school offensive linemen at this point. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think Early's going to play. I hope Armella gets in there too and maybe works himself into the rotation. I do think there'll be real competition. I do think that this spring is a big, big spring for Early and Armella.
Yeah. It looks like there's 7 players in the NFL currently that went to Charlotte. None of them are – well, there's one that's an offensive lineman, but apparently he played at Charlotte in 2019 to 2023. So he was not under the – well, I guess that 1 year he was a Alex Atkins disciple, Nate Davis. And Tulane, it's a little bit harder to look at it because I don't know if these years are when they were actually at Tulane or when they were in the NFL, but – not a lot of offensive linemen have been drafted out of Tulane in the last 20 years. I can look at that and distill that for you folks. So he's not on the hot seat, though. But
no.
nice.
How could he be? He's the offensive line coach and the OC for a 13-0 football team. Yeah. And look at where the offensive line – it's not like they're just getting these dudes that are All-Americans and just plug and play. Like, he is still coaching and developing guys. He's developing guys. Like, Dylan Gibbons got better when he was at Florida State. So did Turnentine. So did Roddick and Byers, and these guys are getting better. It's you would just like it to be some high school guys sprinkled in there too.
MyBookie.ag, promo code is WARCHANT. Use that. Get an instant cash deposit bonus. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere at MyBookie. Live betting, live casino, futures, things of that nature. You can bet on who's going to be the first overall pick in the draft. Caleb Williams, minus 952. Second is Drake May at plus 560. But I found this one interesting, Corey. First drafted non-quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously your odds-on favorite at minus 429. Johnny Wilson on the board at plus 20,000. Keon Coleman on the board at plus 24,000.
Well, that's dumb.
Huh. Interesting.
I mean, look, neither one of them's going to be it's you're just throwing money away, but neither one of them's going to be drafted ahead of Marvin Harrison.
But kind of almost implies that implies Johnny's got a better shot at getting drafted ahead of Keon Coleman, which I don't find interesting.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't believe that, but yeah, that's an interesting number.
Jared Verse plus 2,300.
Yeah, that's a little better. Still, not happening. You're throwing your money away, gang.
Yeah, it's mybookie.ag. Bet responsibly, everybody. Don't throw your money away. Promo requires $50 minimum deposit and rollover requirement of one time your deposit total, including your bonus for withdrawal. For full terms and conditions, visit mybookie.ag/about-us. Mad dash to the finish line here, Corey. I'm going to try to just rip through these. North Carolina, Nole, wake up. How intense is a Norvell practice compared to those Jimbo ones back in 12 and 13? Thanks in advance.
Don't know. Didn't get to watch Jimbo's practices.
Yep, that is true.
But you heard tale that they were very, very intense. You could certainly hear him screaming, but we didn't get to actually watch.
Steel 21-27 does not believe that the injury to Jordan Travis kept Florida State out of the playoff. The fix was in. However, if Jordan did not get injured and Florida State does not make the playoff, do you think he would have played against Georgia, or would he have shut it down?
I think he would have played against Georgia. And I think if he's playing against Georgia, almost all those other guys play against Georgia too.
I think he plays. I don't know how many more guys would have followed suit, but I don't know.
Like Fabian Lovett's going to play in that game. Renardo Green's going to play in that game. Maybe Jaheim Bell is going to play in that game, and I think Johnny plays in that game. Keon and Verse, guys that are potential first-round picks, probably not. And Georgia had a couple of first-round picks sit out. But I think everybody else, I think, is playing in that game, and I think it would have been a really fun game to watch. I think Braden Fisk would have played in that game.
Let's see here. We got Beham FSU. The past few weeks, I've heard Warchant staffers mention injuries throughout the season. Now that the season is over, are you able to talk about some of the behind-the-scenes stories from practice that viewers, listeners might find interesting during a 13-1 season?
13-0.
13-0, yeah.
13-0. As far as I don't remember seeing any.
Who wasn't in green? That was like an instrumental.
Lie.
I mean,
I'll tell you who wasn't in green, the offensive lineman, ever.
Right, yeah.
They are never in green. But, yes, every skill position player and every quarterback, the quarterbacks are obviously always in green. That's no contact, non-contact jerseys. Yeah. But I would guess, Aslan, literally every single skill player was in green for multiple weeks this past season. We hit
a point in October, I think, where every running back started wearing green too. Like running backs were being treated like quarterbacks, like green no contact jerseys. I was trying to think like all the guys that are NFL hopefuls, like Fabian was limited all year long. We never saw Fisk in green, but Fisk was off to the side. I don't know if I think Renardo might have got banged up once.
Yeah. Didn't practice a whole lot.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like.
So, I guess all that to say that despite that, they were still able to go 13-0. So
yeah. Might as well have gone 9-4. Who cares?
But yeah, no other
get in the playoff anyway.
No other really behind the scenes stories from practice. There's one, but I probably can't tell it to you, everybody. So if you see us in Ireland, ask me. But yeah, I remember that time in February when you mentioned the story, you couldn't tell me. Can you tell me now? You'll have to sign an NDA though.
Right.
So
right.
Be prepared.
Didn't come
to do
from
that.
Aslan. It came from somebody else.
Random_John. What's next in the battle between Florida State and the ACC? Are there any big guns, big shots that have not been fired yet? What could be next? They've gone after Chad's dad and Chad himself.
So is that part of the question?
It's great, but yeah, we still don't have a tag withdrawal. But it's great. Well done, John.
That's funny.
Not
they did
John
go
Swafford,
Chad.
though.
Yeah, Chad and Chad's dad. That's funny. I don't know. I didn't know they were going to bring up Chad in this latest round. So who knows where it's going? The ACC, I'm sure, will have some sort of counter in the next week or so, and it's just going to go back and forth in the public until it gets resolved. Hopefully, it calms down a little bit, but it'll definitely heat back up if there's nothing done in the next 3 months. Those spring meetings in Amelia Island are like early May, so. It will be back on the forefront by then, and the front burner. And Clemson will still be, outside in the woods, not caring at all about anything, just wandering aimlessly through the woods, letting Florida State do everything.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe they have more details on that, the feigning of Swafford posturing that they had to extend the grant of rights to get the ACC linear network. But you figured if they had details on that, they would have included it in this round of it. Maybe they're going to,
Maybe they're waiting for the ACC to say he didn't, and then they bring out more evidence that, now you're lying. You're caught in a lie. This is what he said. We have his – I guess you can subpoena cell phone records and stuff and text messages.
Who knows?
Man, can you imagine the text between John and Chad?
And John Skipper at ESPN, who's no longer there. Maybe get him on our side. All right, last one. Colorado, Noel, wake up. Maybe let me know if we can tweet this out. It's a tattoo. I recently got my first FSU related tattoo, which happens to be my first and only tattoo. This thing runs the span of his forearm. It is an immaculately stamped in, tattooed in spear. I mean, the one that's on the helmet.
It's a spear. Okay, I didn't know what it was. Okay.
It is. I mean, it looks like it's punched in. The color, the black, the line work is straight. It looks.
So is
great.
it garnet and gold or just black?
Black and gray. Yeah.
Okay.
What is the most awesome FSU tattoo you've ever seen? What's the worst? Thanks for all that you guys do. Go Noles. I once saw a guy in Eastlake, where I'm from, at the Publix, who had an Osceola renegade reared up, Osceola on horseback with like some background of Doak Campbell. It looked awesome. It was like on the outside of his leg, like not his actual calf, not the rear of his leg, but like the side of it. It looked incredible. Worst one, I don't know. And if I even saw, I wouldn't say it. If anyone ever had a bad tattoo, I can't bite my tongue on a lot of things, but like a bad tattoo, I'm usually, because it's permanent, man. I'd feel bad about it. Like, what happened there? So I wouldn't even admit it to anybody if I saw a worst one. But the Osceola Renegade on the dude in the Upper Pinellas, North Pinellas County area. Shout out to that guy. Maybe he's listening to the show. And did the guy actually go through after Florida State beat North Carolina in 2020 and get the Norvell cornrows tattoo?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Could be. I don't have a great answer. I can't get into too many details, but I saw one on a lower back once.
Really?
It was really not. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, what?
The small of the back, Aslan. Can you picture it? It's
just said dadgummit in Old English.
Just doke.
In Chinese letters.
It's a tattoo of doke. No, I can't even. Literally nothing comes to mind.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen Florida State tattoos, but nothing stayed with me for better or for worse. And I don't have one. I should get one. I should get one.
A lot of the players, I think Cam Akers has a spear or unconquered tattooed on him. Like, a lot of the players have Florida State themed tattoos that are really sweet. I
also feel like women like tattoos more than they did when I was coming up.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's more like ingrained in culture now to I think
we're the minority. I feel like
I know,
not
but
tattoos,
I think honestly, like, I was talking to Stephanie about this a couple days ago, and I was like, maybe I'll get a tattoo, and she's like, you should get a whole sleeve, and I'm like, well, I'm not that guy, like that. Yeah. I'm not a dude that has a sleeve, like a whole, like, tattoos all the way down his arm.
You could get away with it though, Mad Dog. I could see you pulling off a sleeve.
Yeah, but then I'm like, well, maybe I am that guy. Like, maybe I should start just tatting my body up, but I probably won't. I'm too much of a baby.
Yeah, that's me. I can't, the pain. I don't know how y'all do it. Shout out to you guys. I've got a terrible pain threshold. So, All right, that's a wrap for us. Thanks for listening. Hopefully your pain threshold quite high to make it through that entire show. Just kidding. That was great. Strong week out of you, stuff. Corey.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. You too, man. You too.
Let's reconvene. We'll have a Monday show for you folks per usual. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock on Friday. Tune in for that. And warchant.com. In the meantime, I think there's another junior day. So all the recruiting stuff you want will be at warchant.com. Thumbs up, 5-star rating and review, please. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.